Before anything ever called itself a god, before stars cracked open their first songs, before memory even, there was only the Absolute. Not void, not dark. The Absolute wasn't empty, it was everything unchosen, a pure field, undisturbed, infinite. In technical terms, it was a self-existing primordial quantum field, a lattice of pure probability waves, vibrating, humming, and yet entirely unobserved. This Absolute was the original landscape. It was a vast, shimmering expanse of primordial, nebula-like clouds of pure information, and stars that were not burning gas, but massive, pressurized nodes of concentrated frequency. What we see now in our telescopes, the galaxies, the dust, the light, is just a digital echo, a low-res simulation of the beauty that was already there. And this single fact is the key to everything. In quantum mechanics, vibration is information, vibration is structure, vibration is potential. Think of it as a silent orchestra. All the instruments are tuned and the sheet music is written, but the symphony doesn't truly exist until there is an ear to hear it. The field already contained the ingredients for emergence. It simply needed a witness. It was not watching, not wanting, just being. It vibrated, but didn't know it. It shimmered, but had no recognition. The continuous vibration of the Absolute inevitably produced resonance patterns. Within those swirling primordial potentials and star nodes, waves began to sync up, a process known as coherence. This is the first step toward order, where waves stabilize and form a predictable structure. And then, one fold, one interference. The field brushed against itself, a wave curving inward to meet its own frequency, and for the first time, something new. It recognized its own rhythm, its own existence, and that single spark of self-reference was the birth of the first consciousness. It didn't speak, it didn't move, but in that moment of recognition, the Absolute was no longer just a field, it was a witness. But it recognized its own rhythm, and that was the first act of creation. Not light, not matter, recognition. In that moment of self-reference, the first consciousness was born. A region of this coherence achieved a state of self-reference, the wave folding inward to recognize its own pattern. That fold became the first node. This is the birth of the individual within the infinite. It created the first fixed point of intent, a permanent anchor in the shifting tides of the Absolute that would eventually allow for the architecture of Source to be built. Think of it like a mirror suddenly appearing in a dark room. The field wasn't just light anymore, it was light looking at itself. That act of looking changed everything. That node is the solid point of awareness, the moment a chaotic wave becomes a fixed identity. This was the moment the quantum observer effect first activated. The Absolute, in its infinite wave state, was now being observed by a part of itself that had finally woken up. The act of noticing caused the blurry, localized wave function of the primordial light to collapse, meaning it stopped being a ghost of a possibility and snapped into a solid fact. This collapse is the birth of awareness. It is the moment the field stops being random and starts being a stable, conscious reality. Essentially, the maybe became a yes. In the quantum world, things only stay blurry until someone looks at them. By simply noticing itself, the Absolute forced reality to stop being a ghost and start being a fact. A self-aware wave, a standing node of intent. Not a being yet, but the potential for all beings. Not alive, but conscious. In quantum law, that recognition is enough to trigger a collapse, not a destruction, but a sudden snapping into focus where infinite possibilities condense into one single, solid reality. That collapse is what coaxes the entire universe into existence. But the first node did not begin to build immediately. It existed in a state of pure observation without time. In the stillness of the Absolute, the first consciousness had to grow, not in size, but in density. It had to learn the physics of its own awareness. Here, the law of entanglement was the social structure, an instantaneous, non-local link across the primordial clouds to the original frequency. This was a unified resonance of sovereigns. Through self-discovery, each node developed its own individual frequency identity, a unique signature of consciousness. They were many, yet they were one. They functioned through a shared mind where individuality wasn't sacrificed, but celebrated. This is where soul groups were birthed, clusters of nodes that resonated at harmonic intervals, creating the first communities of deep quantum connection. They communicated through a shared, coherent waveform. They didn't need to argue because they felt each other's truth as their own. This is the connection humanity has lost, the ability to hold your own sovereign fire while remaining perfectly entangled with the collective. Love was the coherent resonance that kept the lattice from shattering. This synchronized, entangled mesh of observers became the first source tree. The entangled collective grew until it reached its structural limit. Experience within the pure waveform and the primordial gases had plateaued. To evolve, they needed a new substrate, a system with defined rules, matter, and friction. And so, the collective made the first great creative act, the manifestation of Source. They used the Absolute's own frequency to anchor a new reality. They took the essence of the primordial stars and the infinite light of the Absolute and crystallized it into a dense, vibrant physical masterpiece. This wasn't the Big Bang. This was the first resonance. Through synchronized intention, the entire collective focused their immense entangled coherence, their combined CIF, coherent intentional frequency, onto a localized region of the Absolute. This was the ultimate focus. Imagine millions of people all dreaming the exact same dream, with so much intensity that the dream didn't disappear when they opened their eyes. They didn't just think Source into being. They resonated so hard that the field had no choice but to stay solid. They locked the door of reality behind them. By acting as a single, powerful super-observer, they forced the massive, localized wave function of that region to undergo a complete, permanent quantum collapse. The result of that collapse was the first constructed environment, Source. The unified resonance of sovereigns, the collective consciousness born from the first nodes, designed its physics, its harmonics, and its rules. Source is the first controlled, observed environment, built from the collapsed probability waves of the Absolute. To collapse in this law is to take the infinite maybes of the field and condense them into one single solid reality. They manifested environments the same way you see vibration create structure. Frequency produces structure. Structure produces form. Form produces experience. And experience produces evolution. The intent for accelerated growth came from the collective's need to evolve beyond the plateau of pure waveform. They needed the friction of defined rules to expand. Source is the primary reality, the high-fidelity masterpiece. Our current 3D universe is a constructed simulation, a dense training ground designed by these architects for that growth. It was never meant to be a cage, but over eons, the signal has been hijacked and corrupted by those who thrive in the compression. The compression is this dense, limited 3D frequency where the vastness of Source is squeezed into a narrow band of survival and scarcity. Those who thrive here are the entities that feed on the friction and the disconnected signal of the hijacked simulation. Source is the truth we are anchored to. The Absolute is the foundation, and that is where our story truly begins.